Shabbat Shalom. I stand before you tonight in this Shabbat, and I will freely admit my heart is quite heavy watching those events unfold. And it's not just been Wednesday, it's been all of this, watching it building up and building up, worried that something like Wednesday, that one of these protests, which really weren't protests, because they were so fueled with anger and with lies, and all of that stuff was going to turn into something of violence and destruction, and we witnessed it. So I stand before you because we can't just let it go. We have to do something. And I've been trying to figure out what the something is to do. And I was thinking about our Torah portion. And in rabbinical school, you're actually trained when you study Torah, don't teach against the Torah portion. You're not supposed to say, oh, the Torah portion's got it wrong. This is what Abraham was supposed to do. This is what Miriam was supposed to do. This is what so-and-so, they screwed it up. Don't do what the Torah did. You're not supposed to do that. And see, as I look at our Torah portion with the story of Moses, and he rises up, he's born, he rises, and he ends up in the household of Pharaoh, and he grows up, and he secretly knows that he's an Israelite, and then he sees the slaves, Israelite slaves being beaten, and he kills the taskmaster, and he runs off, and then he finds the burning bush, and at the burning bush, he has this entire existential crisis and talk with God of, I can't do this. See, that it's wrong, right? I'm a huge fan of superheroes, stories, movies, and everybody knows you have the existential crisis first. You get your powers, you have your existential crisis, and then you go take down the bad guy, right? Every story, if you look at them, you get the powers, you get the crisis, you take down the bad guy. That's the way it's supposed to work, and Exodus screws it up. Why do we see Moses take down the bad guy and then have the existential crisis? And by the way, it doesn't stop at the burning bush, because it goes on for the entire 40 years of wandering with Moses, not sure if he is supposed to lead or how to lead or what to do. He is not sure. There are moments where he has clarity. There are moments where he has power and strength, and there are also moments of tension and loss and frustration, and he does a good job being a Jewish leader because he passes the angst on to Joshua. That's kind of the Jewish story, and yet, don't we want the other? I mean, don't we want to have the existential crisis, all of the build-up, and then you take down the bad guy? I mean, this week, what we want, right? The takedown of the bad guy. I mean, I am mind blown. I keep thinking of the taskmasters that I saw that needed someone just to stop them. I saw pictures of that Capitol, and there's somebody wearing a shirt that says, Camp Auschwitz, 6 million weren't enough. It's heartbreaking. It's scary. Who the heck? I should use stronger language, but I'm on the beam. Who makes a shirt like that and thinks you're going to fight for freedom or the betterment of humanity or American liberty and justice and the pursuit of happiness when you're wearing a shirt that says, let's kill more? Or the guy that went to the protest for peace with a machine gun and a bag full of Molotov cocktails, or the baseball bat, or even better yet, the guy running through the Capitol with a Confederate flag. And I'll tell you, it's even really worse than that, because it's not a flag really of the Confederacy. Do you know when that flag started getting used? It started getting used in Reconstruction and beyond, and especially in the 50s and 60s, as people really started to push back, finally to push back Jim Crow, and that became a symbol of the Ku Klux Klan and that entire brand of white supremacists, and that's what broke into our Capitol. Those were the taskmasters, and don't I wish, you have the existential crisis, and the superhero shows up, and then they get taken down, and you're done. That's the story, I want. But instead, I get something different, because I am a descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Leah, and Rachel. I call Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our teacher. So guess what? Instead, we get to see that, and we hope that those people, and it's even more complicated, because even if they get arrested, even if they have to suffer consequences for their behavior, the problem is it isn't just those guys. It's not just one taskmaster. It's the whole system of hatred and violence, of twisting truth in order to get power, of creating distrust and separation. That whole system is still there, and that's what Moses was confronting. He said, I can stop one taskmaster, but then he goes and he's standing at the burning bush when he has to go back and stop the whole system of slavery. It's kind of like us. How do we stop that whole system? And God says, you're going to go and you'll tell Pharaoh, let my people go. And mostly, right? God turns his hand white. God turns the staff into a snake. Moses is not sure. I stutter everything he says because I don't really know how to fix it. You make it sound easy and simple, but it's messy and hard. And yet, at the end, Moses does go. It's fascinating. It's credible. It really needs to be inspiring to us. Go down, Moses, way down to Egypt land, and tell old Pharaoh, let my people go. And it takes 10 plagues and lots of force and assertiveness and power to push back against that system to get the people of Israel, and they still have to wander 40 years. It doesn't solve all of the problems in the world, but it brings at least a little piece of redemption. And so I know I can't just bop the taskmaster. Moses gets a chance to stop one taskmaster, but then he has the bigger task of stopping that system. And so what are we called to do on this Shabbat? We have to find that courage and bravery. That song needs to play in our heads. Go down, Moses, way down to Egypt land, and tell old Pharaoh, let my people go. The song lyrics are going to change because it's not telling old Pharaoh, let my people go. It's going out in the world and saying, we can't have that violence and hatred and mistrust. The people who say we got to tear others down in order to survive, that we have to stop it. We have to put an end to it, to find that energy, to find not just individuals, but an entire people and communities linked to communities until we find our way through the sea and out of that place that will crush us and destroy us and on our way, really free, full of liberty, full of justice, full of happiness and joy as a people, as a country, as a world, till we can march towards a promised land, a place of shalom. Hear the song. Think of Moses. Realize in those moments where you're not sure what to do that Moses felt the same way. Let us find inspiration within. Let us listen to each other and find inspiration from without. This week is just the tip of an iceberg, I know, and there is a lot to combat and fight. But we can keep moving. We can keep going. We can overcome and bring our world to a place that is high and holy. Moses went down and he told Pharaoh, let my people go. And we can too. Amen. Shabbat shalom.